Welcome to Device Technology's first edition of Micromatters, an educational video series bringing to you cutting-edge information about a diverse and very important field of infection prevention, which I'm so passionate about. Each quarter, we propose to send you interviews and interesting news clips about infection prevention from leading industry specialists, both locally and internationally. In our first edition of Micromatters, I'm pleased to introduce to you Dr. Jerry McDonald, Vice President of Research and Clinical Studies at STERIS Corporation. We hope that you enjoy our first edition of Micromatters. Thank you.
The most important part about pre-cleaning is probably to make sure that you remove gross contamination for it. And in some devices this is not important because you can actually go through a very well designed washer disinfector process and have a purely clean device afterwards. So many devices don't need pre-cleaning, but many devices do, and the way you can determine that is by looking at the instructions for use. The obvious example in our current discussion is of course around flexible endoscopes. So all the device manufacturers of flexible endoscopes all recommend that you pre-clean the device before it goes through a standard cleaning process or an automated process. Why is that? Well, some of the reasons is because it's historical, because in all cases that's the way the only cleaning was ever done, was actually a pre-cleaning step before disinfection or sterilization. The other reason was more practical, because some of these devices have very high levels of soil present. And so the pre-cleaning step was seen as being something quick that could be done very quickly to remove a lot of the contamination before it goes through a more rigorous cleaning process. The third part is probably more important, which is that what it's ensuring is that all the lumens on the inside of a device are free to flow, so that nothing has been trapped or is blocking that device, because that of course can hinder any subsequent cleaning or disinfection step. So that is probably the most important step in doing a pre-cleaning. Pre-cleaning does not mean you have to pre-brush. It means that you need to ensure that all lumens are free-flowing. And that's a much simpler step that can be taken that really does reduce risks. Very simply, biofilms are often a term that are probably misused. But let me be very honest with you and tell you what biofilms really are is the natural growth of microorganisms, in particular a group of microorganisms known as bacteria. So bacteria grow together in populations. You can't see them, but they grow together in populations, and they begin to excrete things into their environment that protects them from the environment. They're trying to survive as a community. And that's what essentially we call a biofilm. It's as simple as that. So biofilms, though, we should remember, they are normal, they're natural. We have them in our own bodies, and we have them on various different types of surfaces. Most water handling systems will have biofilms in them. But they become a concern when they begin to enter into medical devices. And that way they can sometimes cause or be a source of microorganisms for infections. And that's why we hear so much discussion about them. But I will also caution you to be careful with it, because biofilm as a term is often used as a marketing term, which can be very confusing for people to understand, a very complicated issue. Now, a biofilm remover is a very interesting concept, because essentially all cleaning chemistries should be very good at removing a biofilm from a surface. But, as we know, not all cleaning chemistries are the same. So for example, some would be very good at removing biofilms from a surface and some would be very poor. In evaluating that, I think it's very important that you look at data that's suggested. And again, if you don't understand the data, have somebody else advise you on it that maybe is a little bit more interested or involved with the science behind it, so that they will be able to caution you on how it's being presented and what it means to you. But there's a very important point to understand here, in that cleaning is only the first step in a reprocessing process. And so biofilm removal should include both cleaning and disinfection, for example. or cleaning and sterilization, because most cleaning products do not actually have antimicrobial activity that's going to kill all the bacteria. So they will remove a lot of the biofilm, but not necessarily remove all the microorganisms that are there. So that's why it's important that for real biofilm control, you have a combination of three things. One is a quality process in place that maintains your scope through a regular reprocessing and storage quality process to ensure you have no risk. The second is making sure you have a cleaning chemistry that's optimized for the removal of protein, carbohydrate, and microorganisms from the surface. And the last part is to ensure that you then have a disinfection or sterilization effect afterwards that's very effective against that, to make sure that all the organisms are inactivated and not a concern to the patient.